Good evening. Wednesday night Q&A live stream. We're experiencing some Mercury retrograde action on our technology, so that's why we're late. I hope there's people here because I don't see anybody. So that makes me wonder if we're in the right spot.
Isn't that one?
Troy's here. All right, so we've got people here. We're just late. Sorry about that again.
Okay.
We're just experiencing technical difficulties, but besides Q&A, it's Wellness Wednesday. Good evening, all you guys. It's kind of nice. You can see everybody that's here better on the computer because that's what we had to go to. Mark's phone wasn't wanting to work. But Wellness Wednesday. Listen, I'm going to get off my notes, but listen to a interesting interview, that's what it was today, on the thing that they want you to take in your arm. And it was piggybacked on another conversation I had with my son about a supplement. He wants to take creatine so he can be a big guy in the weight room. So I'll start here. But what I told Keith ultimately about the supplements and about all of that, because we looked at creatine and said, you know, for what your body needs, you could eat some of our good old cow burger, make sure you get all the meat juices, and you'll get everything that you need and you're all set. And generally speaking, if you need to take a supplement, it's an indication of a disease, dis-ease of some sort. By dis-ease, I mean a lack of health, a lack of ease, and vitality. Health being just balance that brings vitality to your body. Life, energy, feeling well, feeling strong, those kinds of things. That's health.
Get in here. Come on.
Disease does not mean that you have a diagnosis. In the ancient health medicine traditions, they teach that there's a lot of steps of dis-ease, lack of ease, before you hit what Western medicine would call disease, and you get something that's diagnosed. And they treat in that pre-disease area so that you don't get deathly ill with things. A lot of the causes of disease have to do with a lack of balance. And when you leave that balance unbalanced, it's like driving around with unbalanced tires on your car. You can do it for a long time, but eventually it's going to wear out parts of your car simply because things aren't in balance. When you don't treat that underlying issue, you end up with drawers full of supplements. And that's what I was telling Keith. That when you have a drawer full of supplements, it's not because you are doing good things and it's better than taking prescriptions, but you're not necessarily getting to the root of it. The root of all disease is a lack of balance that results in an inflamed system in your body. Zach Bush, if you look him up on YouTube, he's a medical doctor, brilliant, talks a lot about that. Inflammation as the root of disease. And inflammation is merely that there's something that's irritating your body. Think inflamed. It's not necessarily broken yet, but it's angry, it's irritated, inflamed. It can manifest in your body in a lot of ways. Ben and June, I told you about them last week. They were approaching inflammation. June had a degree of inflammation in her body that was coming out through her skin. Their systems were irritated, but at very subtle levels. It took us talking to an Ayurvedic doctor to nail it and pin it down and find what was going on. it isn't just food. A lot of the people that I've talked to have said, well, you need supplements because our food doesn't have enough stuff in it. And these are from people that are eating good organic food. And they're wrong. Your food has what you need in it, unless you are in a really bad place and all you have is the convenience store and all of that. Balance comes not from just good food, but from a lifestyle that allows you to be balanced in your body, your mind, and your spirit. So this interview that I saw today, inflammation at the root of a lot of health issues. And when you look at this disease that's going around, COVID, the people that have a lot of trouble with it have a lot of inflammation in their body. Comorbidities, they're all manifestations of extreme inflammation. But if you have joint aches and pains, you have chronic diarrhea or constipation, ulcers, an off stomach, brain fog, mood. It's partly the weather right now. We need some vitamin D and vitamin C. But chronic overwhelm, fatigue, and anxiety, all of these things are indications that there is angst in your body. There is inflammation going on. And allowed to go and go and go, it's going to manifest as something. And it leaves you way open to COVID. And interestingly enough, that shot that they are wanting you to take creates more inflammation in your body. They were talking about the messenger RNA, the mRNA, that's the basis for a lot of these, not to mention the experimental cocktail that's housed in the vaccine. And what that all does is further irritate your system and eliminate the natural entities in your body that come in and clear away. Your body is designed so that when you get an insult, bacteria, germs, viruses, there are elements that go in, search, destroy, neutralize, and then there's a cleanup crew that comes in to get rid of all of that inflammation. There's a battle zone, just as you'd imagine. It creates inflammation in your body, which you experience as aches and pains, fever, sore throat, whatever it is that particular virus carries. There's an inflamed situation with the white blood cells cleaning stuff up, and then these other entities come in, clear it all out. The shot that they want you to take neutralizes the guys that come in and clear out the inflammation. So if you have an already inflamed system, which we live in an inflamed culture, it just is. So most people have a degree of inflammation. You get this shot, it creates more inflammation, and there's nothing in your body, or it's incapacitated, decreased, to clear out that inflammation. And so people are experiencing side effects that are consistent with a lot of inflammation in the body, to the point of anaphylactic shock and death. So that was all a really interesting rabbit trail to go down this week. Piggybacked on all of that, you kind of get on themes. I am giving a workshop next Tuesday evening on reducing adrenal fatigue, overwhelm, anxiety, and actually all of it. Inflammation being the root of all of it, using the clock, using rhythm. A lot of imbalance comes from being out of rhythm. Back to your car that isn't having the tires balanced, that tire moves out of rhythm. Instead of being a smooth flow, it's going to be flopping a little bit. And that imbalance over time creates a breakdown. You're the same. 3 basic places where you come into rhythm with how you were made, how nature is. Like I said, our culture is out of rhythm. We live in an inflamed culture. So when I share these, all of them next Tuesday, you'll see the norm is to not live this way. But one of them is eating. I'll tell you a little bit about that tonight. But then sleep and movement. Movement has to do with breathing. So Tuesday, I'm going to put the link when I get done in. I'm going to try to anyway, since
From
everything's
this,
screwed
you're
up.
going to put the link?
No,
Can you? I don't know how to do it.
I can try.
Okay.
Since I'll be on my phone, it gets dicey.
Right.
But I will put the link then to that interview I was talking about and to my talk on Tuesday night in the chat, so you can register for that and come and get all the good stuff. But just eating. So just food. I'm not going to give you any superfoods. Superfoods are only as good as the rhythm of your eating. Your body, I've said this before, is designed to digest food between sunup and sundown. It's dark now. Your body's digestive agents, workers, they've left home. They've left for home for the night. They won't be back until sunup. When you put in food at this point in time, your body is going to store it because it really is ill-equipped to deal with it any other way. When you eat during daylight hours, particularly when the sun's at its highest, so 10 to 2, basically, you're going to be eating in rhythm with the way nature has set your body up to digest food, which means that whatever you put in your body between 10 and 2, it's going to pull the maximum nutrition out of it. Stuff that you put in your body at 7 o'clock at night, it doesn't matter how organic and wonderful and nutrient dense it is, your body's not going to process it and pull the nutrition out of it. And if that's your biggest meal of the day, you may need a supplement because you are out of rhythm and you are creating dis-ease or a lack of ease in your body because you're asking it to do something that it's ill-equipped to do at that point. So your body is happiest in your eating in your best rhythm if you have a lighter breakfast that's nutrient dense. Got a lot of good stuff, but it's easy to digest. A good lunch, and then a lighter supper. This is a good place to start. If you want an experiment, play with this. Test it. I dare you. Let me know how it works. Just pull your meat out from your last meal of the day. Make sure you get meat at lunch if that's your practice is eating meat, which we do here. Lunch is our big affair, which is really nice because then I'm cooking, we're eating and cleaning up at the time of day when we have more energy. So the kitchen flows nicely. For supper, we just have something light that's really easy to make, fairly easy to clean up, so that when we're ready to just rest and relax, we don't have a whole lot to do. I make it light on purpose. And I started with just not eating meat at night. We just have something, vegetables and bread or rice or lots of other options. Eggs are great. Meat broth, it's great. Just experiment it. Test it. I dare you. When you eat, and then you'll pull the nutrients out of your food. And that saying about you need supplements because there's not nutrition in your food isn't true. What it is that you're not putting the nutrition in when your body can maximize it and pull it out, which is a huge difference. And you don't have to pay a lot for supplements then. I have a whole drawer full that I'm happy to share because I don't use them anymore. I've just kept them because I'm the kind of person that thinks, well, someday I might need them. But I haven't needed them in 2 or 3 years now. After I spent a few months getting my system cleared out. It runs fine now. I'm maximizing my food and I don't need all that stuff, which saves me a huge amount of time because time is money and you pay yourself then. So that's bringing yourself into rhythm. Just try that. See how you feel. See how your joints feel in the morning. See how your energy level is. See how well your skin starts to look. It'll affect that, affect your hair, fingernails. You'll notice all those things fairly quickly. Elimination will probably change. All sorts of things. Brain fog, maybe even. Great stuff. Just by eating lighter at night. Eating in rhythm. Eating in rhythm with the seasons. What sounds good right now? What's in season? Root vegetables. I love squash right now. It's just really good for some reason. Red meats, really yummy because they're very nutrient dense. A lot of bang for your buck. A little harder to digest. So if you have them at noon, your digestion is super strong in the winter so that it's ready to digest all of your day's nutrition in a very small window. In the summer, you eat different stuff. Salads sound great. Chicken and fish are wonderfully light and easy to digest. Your stomach doesn't burn as strong because it can burn through a huger window. So the rhythm of the seasons, the rhythm of your day, where you're at in your stage of life makes a difference in how you digest food, what you digest. It's all about rhythm that brings you into balance, that decreases inflammation in your body so that everything works at the maximum capacity. Yeah, Stephanie, let me know how it works. I'm excited about that. Yeah, not all people are, I'm reading back through, not all people are day shift people. Tamarack, come to the talk because we'll talk about rhythmic sleep as well as rhythmic movement. Like I said, our culture is not in sync. It's not in rhythm. And some people do like to stay up later at night, but it doesn't change. It's like it doesn't change gravity because we can fly airplanes. It just means that we're doing something mechanically that we weren't really made to do. But it doesn't mean we've defeated gravity. And just because you like to stay up late at night or you like to eat late at night doesn't change the fact that your body isn't designed that way. It just is what you do. So that's that. But come and we'll talk about it because I like to interact on my workshops and not do all the talking. And so I'd love to see that. So I will put those couple links in the chat if I can when I get off and turn it over to Mark. But give it a try. Just do a little small thing this week to come into rhythm. See what happens. That's Wellness Wednesday for today. Question and answer, homestead questions. If you have a question for me, I'm up for it now that I'm going to try and get onto someplace where I can see stuff going by since Mark has my computer.
Yeah.
If you put your questions in caps, though, I will see them a whole lot easier and actually be able to relay those to Mark. And thumbs up, please, because even though YouTube is kind of a crock at the moment, we can still mess with their algorithm and tell them what is good to watch.
Yeah, greetings. I'm on a laptop, so this is way different. It doesn't look the same to me. So anyway, I'm pretty resilient, but I'm seeing myself look at a different area.
Yeah, it's a little different.
It's weird. All right. Anyway. Okay, so tonight is our question and answer. We talk about homestead stuff and small farm stuff, just plain living stuff, just plain stuff, Here it is, the 17th of February, and winter can be a long time going. This one's been rough. It was supposed to be today was supposed to be a really nice warm day. Actually, it was. It got up to 22. But this morning it was -9. So got up this morning thinking I'm going to put my Bermuda shorts on and -9 outside. But anyway, we got through it. We had a nice time. We actually went over to my son's house for chili. And had a good meal over there and then came home. We're in the house tonight because the back room was cold and it's pretty cold outside. So we just decided to come in here. And then I had a problem. I got the first question for open line. My phone will not orient the way it needs to do this show. So it's stuck up and down like that, and the screen was about this big and about this wide, so I couldn't use my phone. And I'm going to have to come up with a solution for that if I'm going to use it for tomorrow night. So if anybody knows how to do that, let me know. Let's see, we got all right, we got the well, there's a different, when I see a different name, I key on it. Hi to everybody. Stephanie, Texas Lady, Debbie Van Fossen's with us, Tamarack's with us, Kaleidoscope's with us, Edgar Jacobs, that looks like a new name. Belva Rockwell, that's a new name, isn't it? I haven't seen Belva before. That's a unique name. I know a Burva, but not a Belva.
Mhm.
Gary Rockwell, fence question. Okay, we'll get to that. All right, Jill's busy at it. I got a couple of things to pass on real quick because I came across something today and I said, I got to share this. And it's a two-part deal. Okay, I listened to a podcast that a trusted friend sent me, trusted friend. And the doctor that's being interviewed in this, her name is Sherry Tenpenny. Right now, Jill's going to see if she can put the link in the description. She's going to try it. But that's the woman's name, Sherry Tenpenny. It was a very recent interview, and the interviewer she was on her. You know, she was making her give up some information, and I think everybody needs to listen to it because it's all about the jab in the arm type thing. I think it explains a lot about what's going on. I mean, I was over at my son's house and I said to his wife, are they, because they know several people that have gone and waited in line to get that shot and paid money for it. And the amount of people that are having very bad reactions to it is up there. And even people dying from it, I think it's bad. The numbers were bad, but you need to listen to this podcast, this interview. We'll see what we can do to make sure you can get it. If not, I'll figure out a way to. We'll figure out a way because I think everybody needs to hear this. But for the Wu flu, that it's like 99.6% that you're going to recover perfectly from it, no adverse anything. Why would you get a vaccine for that? You know, if the vaccine has even a little bit of adverse reactions, why would you do that? I don't get that. And then you get the vaccine, they still want you to social distance. You can still catch it. You can still got to be wearing the mask and all that stuff. It's a bunch of BS. And I think you should know it. But Jill said to me on the way home, because some people in our family have done that. And I said, how did they get to the point where they will do something like this? And it's that they're constantly pounded with the mainstream media, just showing them the death rate, and putting fear in them. And then the solution that they're being given of this shot, they don't look at what it's causing. They just run to it. And it's pretty sad, but I think everybody needs to listen to it. After I listened to it, I said, boy, I'm glad I'm doing what I'm doing, because the way they're going to press that is no flying, no grocery stores, can't go in any government buildings, can't go any place unless you can prove that you had a vaccine. All right. And that's how they do it in other countries. So we don't want that coming here, but it's one of those things. If it starts, the best you can do, I think, is you can just stretch the amount of time before you have to do it. And from what this woman was saying, the death rate is going to be very high in 4 months from now, 4 to 14 months, going to be very high. And that's a pretty bold claim, but she seems to know what she's talking about. And she's not just, she's a doc. She knows what she's talking about. And you just have to use your human intellect to listen to somebody and say, I believe what they're saying, or I'm not sure about what they're saying. Just because somebody shows me a diploma from some university, it doesn't mean anything to me. I have to be able to look at them, watch their body language. Do they believe what they're saying, type of thing? And I believe this woman believes what she's saying, and I believe what she's saying is accurate. So that's why I shared it with Jill immediately, and I said, I'd like you to listen to this, give it a smell check. And she said, yeah, absolutely. I think that she's very accurate. So I'd like you guys to see it too. And then it's a little depressing, because to think that there are forces in the world that would do this. But then you think back on the Holocaust, you think back on other terrible things. There's some bad people in this country. There's some bad people in the world. And so then later this afternoon, someone sent me another podcast, and this channel is called Sheep No More, and the person being interviewed was Juan07, and I highly recommend that you go back, you find that on YouTube and listen to it as quickly as you can. Listen to it before bed and listen to it when you get up in the morning, because I mean, this guy, Jill said to me, who is this guy? And I had to say, I don't know. I don't know. But he knows a lot of stuff, and the sequence of his reasoning rings true in my mind. And long, long ago, a guy that I trusted said, you got a serious nose for baloney. I can smell it when somebody's lying, and I don't think this guy's lying. I just don't. So I'd like people to listen to that too. Sheep No More, 107. We'll see if we can get the link for that. So low tech around here. Real good. And it makes you feel like, okay, I feel, at least me, my optimism is way up. I feel like everything's going to be fine. But if you go through Facebook or any place else, you see, let's see, President Biden says that it's retired GIs and law enforcement officials that are promoting racism in the country. It doesn't make me feel very good, because you know that they're going to target those guys, right? And then all the stuff about food, all the stuff about the the vaccine, all the stuff about the COVID, all this, all the stuff that you read just brings you down, down, down. And one of the things that Juan said in this was, America is having a near-death experience. Now, why is it that the patriot community is holding back? Why? It defies logic. And a lot of the people in the patriot community have said, nobody's going to do anything. You're just going to let them run you right over, and they're copping that attitude. But the attitude that I'm taking is hold your position. I mean, if we saw a legitimate inauguration, if we saw, the White House inhabited with people, and we saw Big Joe riding around on Air Force One, I'd be feeling a little different. But we're not seeing those things, and there's also a whole lot of other inconsistencies as well. So we're in a wait and see time, and Juan quoted some other military intel. He's been very accurate. I've been following him for quite a while, and he's been very accurate. He is really held up and esteemed for his accuracy of data. And he said that there are 3 carrier task force on the West Coast and 2 on the East Coast. And I have no way of confirming that. I'm sure there's people out there that could. I can't. But I don't see why he would lie about a thing like that. And, we in the United States, we don't get information. We're supposed to be passing information on the internet, but the internet has been so tamped down. I mean, fact checkers, right? So I say something and they'll put a screen over it and they'll say it's got sexual material in it, so we can't show everybody. They're fact checkers, right? They're real accurate. So that type of thing's going on. We know this, and but when you listen to this, I think you'll feel better about just holding your position. Because there's people out there that are ready to rock, and now is not the time. We don't want that because we don't want to give the communists anything to blame us for. You just don't want to do that. I mean, look what happened at the Capitol on the 6th. It was their people, but they're still saying that it was President Trump that incited an insurrection. And if you look at the timeline, it didn't even work in the timeline, and he's been acquitted of the whole thing. But it doesn't matter. They'll still keep saying it. Inciting insurrection. They don't even know what insurrection is. But anyway, check those out. The second one will make you feel a lot better about things. And that's where I am at. I felt as though it was very accurate. I'm definitely going to listen to it again. But I'm also feeling very good about having my own little place and food and a little bit of sustainability so I can keep going if times get rough. I'm feeling pretty good about that. I feel that the work that I've put in and the time I've spent thinking about this and doing all these things, I feel pretty good. I'm glad that we have it like that. After I listened to the first video about the vaccines, I thought, we might just have to have all the kids move back home because, look, my son's a firefighter. If they tell him, you got to get this, he's going to say, I'm not getting it. And I've got sons in the military. And I know I went through this once. There was another vaccine that came out, and a bunch of Air Force pilots said, sayonara, we're not getting it. You guys didn't test it. And you think it's safe, but you know it isn't. Or you're saying it's safe, but you know it isn't. We're not getting it. And a bunch of guys left. I was lucky enough that I was really close to the end, and I avoided it, and I never got it. And I forget what it was for. Do you remember what that vaccine was?
Anthrax.
Anthrax, right? And a lot of people got halfway through, and then they just discontinued it because they found out that people were, growing heads out of their armpits and stuff. So this vaccine hasn't been tested, and the data looks really bad of people, getting all kinds of nervous reactions and everything. My son is a fireman, and he has responded to 0 COVID-19 problems, but all kinds of vaccine problems, all kinds of them. So let's go. I'm ready to talk, answer your questions, and talk about farming. Let's talk about better things. You guys can study that stuff on your own time. And we got Farmer Joe Luann's with us, Nathan Pierce, Mom McCann, that's a new one. Robert Freeman's with us, just got his knee replaced, I see. Did they give you the old one? Should make something out of that. All right. I'm ready. Got questions?
Nice
hit me.
You can see it there?
Yeah, it is kind of good. It used to freak me out because I couldn't multitask. I wasn't in touch with my feminine side, I guess. But now I can multitask. It's just that the camera angle is I don't know, it's giving me PTSD or something because I'm looking down like this, even if I look at the camera. So I'm looking at myself looking down. Usually I'm looking myself in the eye with my phone. So if somebody knows how to fix this phone,
yeah, Haven
the
suggested
orientation,
it's the lock screen, and that's what I was looking for. So hopefully Keith knows how to fix it.
All right.
Leave it to the teenager.
17-year-old know how to fix it. By the way, is Joe Brown in here?
Yeah.
Very funny about the hurt feelings report.
Did that hurt your feelings?
Well, it kind of does hurt my feelings. Just that you'd say that, Joe. It kind of does hurt my feelings.
You might need another.
I might need to fill out another report. Then you're in trouble. You're all in trouble. You're on report for hurting my feelings.
All right. Gary had a question for you. Following up on your fencing yesterday, how much do I need to clear through the woods for a perimeter fence installation and maintenance? What about the neighbor's side? He's thinking etiquette. So, do you need to clear on both sides of the fence, or what?
Well, when we've done it through the woods, I clear it so that I can maintain it. So I clear it probably 8 feet from the fence onto my side. And the thought was that in the wintertime, at least we could go down around there with snowmobiles, just to, because you want to run your fence line now and again, make sure nothing's happened. And it's a good thing, because if a big tree goes over it, it's nice if you can get in there with your tractor. Somebody's making Jill laugh about something.
Yeah, Joe wanted to know if you need a hug.
Okay. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. You want to do that until you see some tears? Okay. Just keep going. You know, people got feelings, Joe. People got feelings. That's a heck of a thing to say during COVID-19. Do I need a hug? You know, a lot of us have been without a hug for quite a while. And to say something like that is downright hurtful.
You see him on there?
Okay.
Back to fencing.
Yeah. So that's what I did. But the etiquette thing, the best way, you know, if you go clearing on your neighbor's side without saying something, that's just, you know, you're asking for trouble. So I would just say, I'm going to build a fence and I'd like to maintain it. So, you know, would you mind if I cleared some of the brush over on your side? You know, before you just go over there and start cutting his stuff or her stuff. Depends what kind of fence you're going to put in too. But like with mine, if I'm putting in woven wire, I need to be able to, I usually secure the end and then drive the tractor, and the spinning jenny is on the back of the tractor and the wire peels off the back as I drive through. That's how we have done it in the past. And yeah, for maintenance of the fence. But the stuff that we cleared was just popples and small stuff. If I had run into a big tree, you know, a big hardwood tree or something like that, I wouldn't cut it, just so I you know, if it's a good, big, healthy tree, I wouldn't cut it just so I have a clear lane. You know, so long as I could get around it with a snowmobile, usually that's when we would ride through there, or a motorcycle. You know, I have a Kawasaki 250 enduro motorcycle, and that's my mode of transportation in the summertime. If I'm not in the Jeep, I'm on that around here because it's light, and then I can run fences. A lot of times I do. I have a little box on the back of it, and I'll put some tools in the box, and then, you know, I'll know that I should be working, but I want to walk away from something else, and so I'll jump on my bike and I'll fly out and I'll just start at a corner and I'll start driving until I see a problem, and then I'll get off and I'll fix it, and then I'll go a little further and I'll get off and I'll fix it. And you know, it's just some maintenance of a fence line it's all the time. It's all the time, because deer go through it, trees go across it. You know, the animals that you're containing will fool around with it. So you're always adjusting it. You're always fortifying the position, you know, always. Excuse me, I've got a cup of tea here. Jill's still laughing, so.
I got a follow-up question related to that. Oh, I don't have the time on here. Shoot. Edgar wanted to know, fencing for Mangalitsa, is electric sufficient, or do you need a backup welded wire to keep them in the woods?
Was that the one from last night? Because that's where we started last night. Well, maybe you weren't here last night. You weren't here last night.
And he must not have been either, but specifically in the woods.
Any place. The question started off that way. It was it was about welded wire, and I said, you know, welded wire is sort of, every time I see somebody using welded wire on their place, it looks bad because you can't really stretch it. It doesn't have a lot of stretch to it, and you can't contour, right? So what you want to use is woven wire, not welded wire. Welded wire, because of the welds on the pattern, it doesn't want to flex. It will not do this. It won't. If you try to do that, you'll get a big wall, you know, it'll bow way out. So welded wire, no. Woven wire, yes. I've done a lot of different types of fencing in this. What I've settled on for pigs, and I'm at the point I can put up any kind of fence I want. I could do high tensile. I can do anything I want. And what we've settled on that works, and if you've got 30 pigs in a pasture and they get out, I used to have nightmares about that. I'd have dreams during the night that the pigs were out. And then I'd wake up and they weren't out. And I thought, why am I doing this if it's giving me nightmares? But I had a lot of them. But we went to woven wire, 39-inch woven wire. We build real good corner posts, really good use T-posts, and space them close. Do a good job the best you can. Stretch it tight. Got to have good corners to do that. And then on the inside of that, where the animals are 1 foot in and 1 foot up off the ground, you want to put some sort of holder, like a post. It could be a wooden post. If you could drill a hole through it, that would insulate good enough, I would think. Yeah, I know it would, so long as it was dry. And you put a single strand of electric through there, a foot off the ground and a foot out. Just one. I've seen people say, oh, you got to have at least two. Nope, just one. We've been doing this a long time. My pigs are behind it right now, and I am not worried one bit. So what happens is they have the visual of the woven wire that slows them down. And then if they do get tangled up in the electric, they're not going to wind up on the wrong side of it because the woven wire is there and they'll want to get away. Actually, what happens, the woven wire becomes a beautiful ground. So, you know, when you're putting in an electric fence, you have to put a ground rod down, and sometimes they recommend that you put down 3 of them. But if you've built a fence that's all woven wire, and every 12 feet you've got a T-post down, yeah, granted it's not down 6 feet, but around here I don't have to go 6 feet because it's pretty wet around here all the time, most of the time. But with that many of them, and they're all connected via the woven wire, that completes the circuit to ground. So if a pig gets up against the woven wire and against the electric, that's a good ground. That's a real good ground. So he's going to want to get away from that woven wire really quick. And we don't have pigs go through this. It just doesn't happen. If ever there's a problem, usually it's because a gate has been put up and then it was too tight and the person doing it couldn't get it quite latched. So they just left it and they were going to tell me. And, you know, it flops down and it flops over the electric fence. And it still takes the pigs a long time to figure out how to get through it. And usually they don't all go. It'll just be 1 or 2 of them that will be chasing the grass that's on the other side. And then they'll get on the wrong side. And then their buddies are on the inside. And then if I go and feed, they get all flustered that they can't get back in. So, yeah, it works really good. That's what I recommend. And if you're in the woods with that, you can contour, right? Because the woven wire, it will follow the contour of the land quite radically, I must say. If you have a peak too bad I don't have the whiteboard, but if you have a peak and it's a pretty good peak and you got to go up over the top of it, you might need to put an H post on the top so you can disperse that angulation a little bit. You might. We've had to do that.
Do you train them to the electric fence when they're small?
No, they figure it out. Well, yeah. I mean, you put them in there, and we have a little song that we sing. Did I share that on here before?
No, you were telling.
Yeah, I was telling a Marine friend of mine, but I don't know who sings the song, but it's the sweetest sound I've ever heard is loving you. The sweetest thing I've ever heard is loving you. But I change the lyrics to it. The sweetest sound I ever heard is shocking you. And every time we put pigs into a new area and they're not used to it, and you'll hear them beep, they'll touch it with their nose and then beep, they'll pop back. And that's it. They don't do it again until it, goes off and it's been off for a while and they forget about it. And then they'll hit it again. And then I sing that little tune. Matt Flood, what podcast? Which one, Matt?
Yeah. I put the link to the interview up. It's earlier in the chat, and the other one I haven't tracked down, and I've been too busy yet.
Okay. The other one is a YouTube Sheep No More, and the guy being interviewed is 107. Matt Flood's a new guy here too.
Yeah. All right.
TL Scott. They can hear it and smell it. Yep, they sure can. They sure can smell it. It's surprising to me on electric fence, all the animals, how close they get to it, but not quite touching it. I mean, really just, they'll get within a half an inch of it or even less, and they'll just do something right there, but they'll never quite, so they can sense where it is. Us, on the other hand, I haven't been shocked in a long time, but once you get shocked, you remember where that is, and you remember that feeling that some people don't mind it. I've got a son that doesn't mind it. He'll do it purposely and try to get us to do it. I do not like it. Okay, next question.
Yeah.
James P., thanks for the $1.99.
Mm-hmm. Andrew wanted to know, how young can manga gilts be bred? He has 6-month-old gilts with a boar, and he's chasing them around. Anything to worry about?
No, absolutely nothing to worry about. I just saw there's this Facebook page called Mangalitsa, and I don't really, it shows up on my thing all the time. I never say anything on there. Well, I shouldn't say never, but I very rarely say anything because it's, I don't know, it's like a contest to see who can give the answer first. So I just kind of watch it, but sometimes people sell pigs on there, and I'm always looking for my next pigs. So I look at it, but a lady was just saying that her gilt is cycling at 4 months old. So it happens. I mean, you ask, is it a problem? I don't think it's a problem. See, if she was in the wild, this is my opinion. I mean, if I was to say this on that page, it would come unglued. Matter of fact, just for fun, go on there and say what I'm going to tell you and see what happens. You'll be beaten about the head and shoulders so quick. Because, see, a lot of people will read university books, and the university books prepare people for industrial agriculture. So in industrial agriculture, pigs especially, mother pigs are in gestation crates. So it's a cage that's about the same size as her body. So she can basically stand up and lay down. And then she's got food right in front of her and a drinking nipple right in front of her. And that's it. So she just stands up, lays down, poops, and their entire life is in that gestation crate. It's horrible. I hate it. I wish they didn't allow them to do that, but they do. Talk about animal cruelty. And then they come up behind them and they impregnate them. So they'll just be impregnating a whole line of them, you know. And then when they farrow, they can't really hurt their baby pigs, and they're taken away from the mothers anyway, and they're put on formula right away. So in that scenario, they don't allow the mother pig to become the gilt to become pregnant until she's a year old, sometimes 14 months. And the thinking is that once she's cycled several times, like let's say she starts cycling when she's 6 months old, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12 months, she's putting down more eggs into her fallopian tubes. And the idea in that scenario is profit. And, you know, they're not allowing the mother to be a bad mother because she's in a gestation crate. But our philosophy is we try to, when in doubt, mimic nature. So if your little gilt was running around with a sounder out in the Pacific Rim, where they're native to, which I don't think they actually are, but they say they are, your gilt would be impregnated on her first cycle. That's just the way it would work. And she'd probably be impregnated by a pretty big boar because he would push everybody out of the way and he would be the one to get it done. Good thing or bad thing? Well, you might think she's going to get hurt, but no, he'll just hold her. He'll just hold her there. He just stands with his legs in front of her shoulders, and she can't move. He's not really on her. He's not putting his weight on her because she couldn't take it. She would just fold under him. But he will impregnate her on her first, maybe her second, but good chance on her first cycle. And she'll only have a few eggs in her fallopian tube, so she'll have a low number of piglets. And on her first farrowing, when she starts to farrow, they kind of flop over, they go semi-unconscious. The whole thing happens, and then they come out of it. Well, if they're first-time mom and they only have about 3 or 4, when they come out of it, usually the pigs have found their way to her and are nursing. And she kind of, oh, this is okay. And she's calm. But if she has 10 of them, she wakes up and the first 2 have nursed and are jumping up on her head. You know, they've nursed, slept, run around, poked their brothers and sisters, and now they're goofing off. They're running around. And so they're biting her on the face and they're running all around. And the mother pigs have a tendency to become frantic. It does happen. And a lot of times they'll snap at the little pigs. They'll snap at them, bite them. And that's not a good thing. So if they have a small number the first time, they're small, which is good if they're small. If they're big, if they're 12 months old, that's a big pig. She's not used to this, you know, and she's going to need to lay down at some point. And they get good at it after a while of pushing the pigs out of the way. But, you know, it's a whole lot easier for her if she only has 3 or 4 on the first shot. 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, we've had them where they've only had 2. And those 2 pigs go on to be, you know, really good gilts or boars, you know. So it's the natural, how it happens in the natural world. So I say no, it's not a problem. I don't think you should get out there and separate them. Go on that other page I was telling you about and you relate that story and people will freak out. Same thing with, we're in the north. We got a ton of snow on the ground right now. Been doing this a long time. If I put water out there for the pigs, they will tip it over in about 2 seconds and just play in it, stand in it. And they won't drink it. They eat snow. They like snow. But if you share that, people have read that, oh no, because they're eating snow, then they have to warm it up before they swallow it, and it's a loss of calories, and it all sounds good, right? But if you watch animals out in nature, you watch my cows out in nature, they have plenty of water in the barn, but they eat snow. I watch my kids playing, plenty of water in the house. There's milk in the house. There's, chocolate milk in the house. But they eat snow. They like snow. I like snow when I'm out working. It's nothing like fresh snow. It's good. I like it. And it quenches my thirst and it tastes good. I probably shouldn't because it's probably got something in it. But anyway, I'm living vicariously these days. I just thought of something, and it's a heck of a time to bring it up. But our friend Rush Limbaugh died this morning, and I wondered what it would be like, when that finally happened. I knew it was coming. Every day I've kind of thought, I wonder if today's the day, because I knew he's having a rough time. But too bad. I started listening to him a long time ago. And, he was a friend. I'm going to miss him. I'm really going to miss him. So our prayers go out to his family and, all of you that have grown to depend on him. And he's a good guy. He's a really good guy. All right. And I see somebody else in there too. Nancy Rubeck. Chemtrails. What are chemtrails? Lone Star's here. Sorry if I missed anybody. Luann's with us. No, I know what chemtrails are. Believe me, I got turned on to that like 20 years ago, and being in the flying world, I know what I was seeing, and it was funny how you'd mention it to people, and they'd, like I'm some sort of tinfoil hat wearer type guy. But now we all know about that. They're even admitting why they're doing it. It's a terrible thing.
Right. Robert wanted to know about good things to eat post-surgery for recovery.
Oh, that's easy. So Robert just had his knee replaced. And I'll tell you why he had to have his knee replaced is because he wasn't eating enough Mangalitsa. If you'd have ate more Mangalitsa, it probably wouldn't have to happen because you'd be lubricating that joint and all that. But you probably damaged it being in the Army, so it just couldn't absorb the Mangalitsa. But now that you have gotten your knee replaced, it's still going to need to be lubed. So you're still going to need to eat a lot of Mangalitsa and get the fat. And I'm no joke, get the fat and rub it on the outside of your knee. Really, it'll really help with the wound, because the fat is pretty consistent with our fat. And, if you're fat, Jill didn't think that's funny. But that's what I'd do. I'd eat as much Mangalitsa as you can. And a lot of fat.
Yeah. And a lot of turmeric.
Okay.
And
turmeric.
What I was talking about earlier about eating in rhythm.
Don't eat at night.
Yeah. Don't eat at night. Eat a good lunch. You're home. You can do it. Cooked vegetables right now, because those are easy to digest. Lots and lots and lots of bone broth.
Bone broth, yeah.
Because that's got good food for your bones and all of those tendons, all those hard to heal stuff. Plus it'll help with your digestion and pulling out the inflammation. Turmeric is amazing for doing all of that. If you like curry's got a lot of turmeric in it. And I'll send you some of that honey that I told you about. I got to make some anyway again. It's the spiced honey with turmeric and ginger and a little bit of pepper and cinnamon. Good stuff. But all of that is about promoting digestion and decreasing inflammation, all of which will help your body heal and help you feel better post surgery. So,
Nathan Brenner, when's your next charcuterie class? We'd love to come out. That is going to be, do you know the date on that?
First weekend of November and first weekend of December. They're listed along with the fencing class on bakersgreenacres.com.
Yeah.
If you click on the education tab, it's all listed there. So.
Yep. And I don't know if you would consider that a charcuterie class per se. It's the Homestead hog harvest class. And we start with live hogs. We take a maximum of 12 people, and so we slaughter 2 hogs. So that equals 4 halves. So we have 4 groups of 3. So a group of 3 people has a half a pig. And that's so you get plenty of time on the knife. So I would say get signed up for that. We filled them last year. There's a good chance we may do Beaver Island again. There's a good chance we may do. We did 2 classes here. We may do 3. We may. I mean, we filled the first 2 classes pretty handily. So
we need to talk about if we do a specific charcuterie one next fall.
Yeah, that was something we thought about too. So we could have a Homestead hog harvest class, and then the sort of the 2.0 where you get here and we're not slaughtering. We already have the pigs slaughtered, and we're just starting on the breakdown. We'd start with the breakdown. So that would be a little bit of an overlap, and then run right into the charcuterie end of it.
And we'll just cure the whole thing.
Yeah. Instead of doing it like in the Homestead hog harvest class, we're doing it on the 3rd day. So the big day in that class is the 2nd day. The 3rd day, people are kind of worn out and they're thinking about driving home, in the afternoon. So we wet your whistle on charcuterie. I mean, it's enough that you could go home and do it, but it really is just about a 5-hour block instead of, a full 10-hour block on a Saturday and then finishing up on the Sunday with a 6-hour, something like that. But the more hours you can get in on this, the better, because then when you go home and you do it, you're continuing on the hours that you've put in here with us looking over your shoulder and instructing. So it was a really good class, reasonably priced for what you get. I think it is probably one of the best investments because, we venture off a little into the survivalist prepper type thing. I mean, you are that way if you're a farmer. You are, because you're always preparing for the next season. Generally, farmers aren't running to town every day to go to the store, so we like to have a big storeroom or a pantry or a larder, however you like to refer to it, so that you can resupply your body and get back out there and get to work. So this lifestyle is conducive to the prepper mindset. And if you've got 4 hogs in a pen that you're feeding stuff that you can't eat to, you've got a lot of sustenance there, but you have to be able to turn them from animals on the hoof to animals in your freezer, and then even moreover for the homesteader prepper type, we don't want to rely on the freezer too much. So we would can it, we would render it, we would salt it, we would cure it. things like that, to where you don't have to depend on electricity quite so much. And I did see a question, where can I?
Edgar wanted to know if you could sign up on the website.
Yeah,
Yes, you can.
yeah. Hey, Luann, you ought to go out to Beaver Island next year. We had a blast out there. That was fun. Somebody asked where they can get that kind of fat, and you have found your supply. Our pigs, the Mangalitsa pig, usually has what's called a fat cap on their back. It's about like that, 4 or 5 inches. I've seen them like 6 inches too, and the fat is refined very well by the Mangalitsa pig. They refine it really well. So, of course, we don't feed them just hog chow. We don't give them hog chow at all. We don't give them a lot of corn, a little bit, but not a lot. So the fat is fat that's made from forage that we feed them, or small grains. So it's cleaner. It's a lot cleaner. And when we take these big pieces of fat, I mean, it'll be like this long and like that by that thick. We'll cut them into bricks or chunks like this, and then dredge them in the proper salt and vac seal them with maybe a little paprika or something like that. And they stabilize in about 30 days, right? So then they're shelf stable. Now, they may be in vac seal just for convenience, but once you break it out of there and you have it in the kitchen, you can have it in a cupboard. You don't have to, you can hang it over the sink from a string or something. And what Jill uses it for is she'll just cut it off, and a little salted pork fat will go in the pan before the green beans go in, before the eggs go in. She'll cube it up and braise it off to go in soups. There's so much flavor in that fat. We sent some to this friend of ours, Needy Bali, and she made a video of her cutting it off in chunks about like that. So they were about this big, and just frying it and then eating it. And I got to admit, I was thinking, hey, we need to do that. We haven't done that. It's been too long since we did that. It's really good. It's really, really good. It might seem gross eating fat like that, but that's just to us in this country because we've been told how evil fat is. And to some degree, it's true because if you're eating fat that's just soy and corn, and cheap soy and corn, that we're Americans real good at producing, it probably isn't that good for you, you know. Okay, how are we doing on time? 9:17. We're over.
Yeah,
So
but I got a pile of questions here.
I can cut you loose if you just want to give me the questions.
Okay. Well, maybe Jim's in the bathroom.
Okay.
Lame Buck wanted to know, any thoughts on building a backyard butcher shop?
On me building one, or you building one?
Building one in general, probably.
Oh yeah, I have lots of thoughts on that. I think that is the key to a successful operation, farmstead operation, really. For a million reasons, when you think it through, there's a million reasons why you should do that, or at least 5. Maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I can think of 5 good ones. Just the logistics of having a trailer animals up, make an appointment with somebody. They got to be there at this time of the day. Well, I have a job, so that's, getting somebody else to do it, and time on the road. And then you got to go back and pick the stuff up. You're relying on somebody else to do your processing for you. So you pick, I just had a lady last week. Can't remember who it was. I just can't remember her name. I know who she is, but she called and she said, we picked up our pig and it's terrible. It's just terrible. And when we questioned her on it, it was just because the guys, they get a pig in and they just do pig in, pig out. They don't care if it's your pig or it's somebody else's pig. And obviously she got someone else's pig. She sent me pictures of it. Didn't look like Mangalitsa at all. And so that's what you get. There's good butchers, there's bad butchers, but a lot of times the people that work there, they're just minimum wage employees that kind of rotate through because nobody really wants to do it for a long time. There are some. The guy that we use, he's got some old folks working for him, some older employees that work for him that have been there for a long time. But he also rotates people through a lot too, just kind of tangent help. And although he's very conscientious, his wife's very conscientious, they can't watch everything that goes out. And it's a rigorous, bustling operation, and stuff gets mixed up. So if you do it yourself, like you're homesteading, you're going to raise 2 beautiful pigs. You're going to take care to make sure that they have the best feed, the best bedding, the cleanest water, the nicest shade. You're going to let the radio play for them at night, little Hank Williams Jr. tunes. So you think they're going to be the best pigs, and then you turn them over to somebody for the final product, for the final process, and they don't see it your way, possibly. So yeah, I think you should take hold of that and definitely consider that. Come to our Homestead Hog Harvest class and see our setup, because that's what the point of the Homestead Hog Harvest class is, so that you can do this, right? If the butcher shop can do it, you can do it. There's not any brain surgery going on here. It's just a series of steps that you need to walk through, and then you can do chickens, you can do rabbits, you can do pigs, you can do cows. I just finished the 2 last cows that we're going to do this year. I just finished them up yesterday. Me and Jill did. So we're done for the year, and that's it. And your butcher shop can be operated seasonally. So we do chickens in the summertime, a lot of them. And then in the fall, we roll into turkeys. Turkeys are done. No, actually, we roll into pigs and then turkeys, and then continue on pigs. And then there's break, and then it's beef. And then we're kind of done. We're on to other things because you don't want to be butchering all the time. So a butcher shop on the farm is a good idea. It's totally legal. If you want to, it's your animal, you want to butcher it, that's your business. It's private property. The only time that you run into any issues that you would have to have permission is if you want to sell to restaurants, farmers markets, or retail stores. And it's only because it's a contract issue. You get into a contract with the Department of Ag that if I sell to restaurants, they have to have a license and I have to have a license. And we both pay our licensing fee to the Department of Ag. And they provide no oversight or anything else. They just want you to pay them the money. But if you are doing it for just you, your family, and your friends, or even people who are not your friends, people that you hate, and they want to bring you an animal that belongs to them, it belongs to them, and they want to contract with you to process the animal, it's a contract between you and another citizen. And you don't need any oversight in there, right? They are the quality assurance. You're providing a service. It's on private property. It's private function. You don't need any oversight. You don't need any permission. Of course, if you call and say, do I need permission? They'll say, oh, of course you need permission from us. Yeah. And then they'll give you a license. And then when you read the fine print on the license, it's like you just gave them authority to come on your property anytime you want. Other than that, if you don't have a license with them, then you refer to the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. It's easy. It's really easy. So, and I know that, what I'm saying here is it's going to get stuck in people's throat. They're going to be, well, I don't know, that's uninspected meat. I don't know, because the extension agent, he said this, and guy from the unit, he said this, and I I checked with the guy, sheriff's deputy, and he says, well, I don't know. You should. I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this a long time. Plus, I've locked horns with these weenies a lot. And I know that when it comes to what their job is, my kryptonite is the U.S. Constitution. I know what I'm talking about here. So, yeah, it's a great idea. You don't need a whole lot. If you do it seasonally, you don't need a whole lot of equipment. It's really a nice idea. We can talk about it another time, but I got to roll through this because Jill's going to fade.
Clarence wanted to know, when you slaughter a cow, what do you do with the stomach and head?
The head, we take everything off the head that we want. So we take the cheeks and we take the tongue out of it. That's all we want out of the head. But then my dogs would like to have the rest of it, and we usually let them have it, and they'll work on it until there's not a lot left. They really will. We'll just make sure that they're in an area of the place where it's not getting an eyesore or anything like that. The cheeks we eat, and then the tongue we eat. Really good stuff. The stomach, I have Mangalitsa pigs. They love tripe, and usually the stomach, these last pigs that I did, it was too big for me to even pick up. And I'm like massively strong, but I couldn't pick it up. It was heavy, and it's all full of fermented hay. So when you look at it, it actually doesn't smell too bad. It actually smells kind of like silage in a way. And so we'll just push that in the loader, drop it in with the pigs, and they tear it open. They eat all the hay out of it, and then all the protein, they eat it. They eat it. Gone. I mean, it's disposed. And it is legitimate. It sounds gross, right? But again, refer to nature. If the pigs are in their natural environment, if they find a dead deer in the woods, what are they going to eat first? The stomach, the entrails. That's what they'll eat first, and then they'll eat what we would consider the T-bones and stuff like that. But that's what we do with it.
All right.
Keeps them full for a while. The last time I did this, there was 9 of them, 8 of them in a pen. And then the next day I went out with feed and they turned their nose up. They didn't need me. They were full.
And loving it.
It's good for them too. They need protein, so it's a legitimate source.
Matt asked, you mentioned planting locust trees the other day.
Yeah.
Why that tree? He's been planting cider apple trees for a few years.
That's a really good question. This is a real interesting position that I'm in. When there's a friend on here, one of our tribes people here, named Honey Kafina, and I haven't seen her tonight. So maybe she's here, maybe she isn't. But she contacted me and she says, I've got 40 honey locust trees that I want to bring to you. And it's hard for me sometimes when people want to give me something, it's just something about it does. But when people want to give you something, you got to let them do it because they're finding joy in that, right? So what I did was I said, oh, well, okay, let's make a time so we could, spend some time, have a cup of coffee and get to know Honey Kafina. It's not her real name. And she was on here for a while and, it's a cool name, Honey Kafina. And so her and her husband came up and they had 40 honey locust trees. And I thought, well, that's nice. But I was asking the same question. What am I going to do with honey locust trees? What are they good for? And then the weekend before I had a hog harvest class, somebody was telling me about those types of trees. And when Honey was here, she left me some paperwork on the trees, and her husband are looking for a place to set up a homestead, and they kind of like to come up this far, but they don't want to be up this far up north and stuff like this. So now I've got 40 of these trees. They're just little trees, but the paperwork that she left for me, the instruction manual, it's from a 1920s reforestation survey that was done to alleviate the problems of the Dust Bowl. And just fascinating. Okay, so these trees will grow very quickly to about a foot in diameter, and they will drop 800 to 1,000 pounds of these bean pods that are about this long, and the beans in them are about the size of a quarter, and something like a half an ounce each. They're suitable feed for cattle and pigs. So you have these trees, you could set them up in a cow pasture, and when they start dropping their pods, the cows will go out there and eat them, and they'll provide shade. They provide. They are a legume, so they're nitrogen fixers. So having these trees living in your pasture, your hayfield, right? You would set them up in the hayfield so that you could go down the rows, with your hay equipment. It'd be really neat. I mean, it's sort of like stacking species on top of each other. And in the natural world, the species that you stack together, they enhance each other. Not always, but they can. And this is one that works very well. It's sort of like rye. It works well anywhere. You plant it in sand, you plant it in seawater, it'll grow. Why don't I take this and you can go?
I'm waiting on Jim. As soon as Jim
Okay, I don't want you to get tired on me. Okay. All right.
Don't want that carriage turning into a pumpkin.
Jill's a good trooper, and she seems like she's keeps a smile on her face, but as soon as the show's over, if I've gone long, it's not good. I don't mind going long, especially on question and answer night. It's a pleasure. Next.
All right. Bill wondered, what would you recommend for how to start marketing Mangalitsa?
Easy.
Good question.
Easy. You remember, maybe you don't remember, but I grew up in the 60s, and there used to be these guys, they called them pushes. A pusher. He's drug pusher. And they would, this is the way the story went anyway, they would give kids drugs, and then the kids would get hooked on them, and they'd keep coming back. So they'd give up free samples. So it's the same thing with Mangalitsa. You do the same thing. You just, your customer base for your Mangalitsa, you don't want to fool around with restaurants, and you don't want to fool around with retail stores, and unless you like yak and stay out of farmers markets too, because all of them require that you have your animals killed at a USDA plant, a USDA inspected plant. So that's a little difficult these days, right? So if you're getting into Mangalitsa now and you're saying, well, I'm going to service restaurants. I got a restaurant. He said, oh yeah, he'd buy everything I could. I've heard that a million times, right? He'll buy everything that you can produce at the same price off of the Gordon food truck, but you can't produce Mangalitsa for that, right? So if you really nail him down, he'll be saying, well, yeah, everything you can produce, so long as it's the pork chops. But I don't want the liver. I don't want the heart. I don't want the shoulders. I don't want that. I just want the pork chops, right? So you got to narrow it down a little bit. You don't want to do business with restaurants. Trust me. I mean, most of us. Like if you live someplace and you get somebody from the French Laundry, well, they can afford to pay you whatever you want for your product because they're charging $800 for a cover. For a cover means like a place. for a meal, right? No matter what it is, it's $800, and that's all you can drink probably. That's where Governor Newsom was when they caught him without a face mask on, partying with his friends. You know, he's at the French Laundry. But for most of us, Mangalitsa is not going to work because the greasy spoon's not going to buy it, and the ones that are consider themselves high end, they don't know what to do with the fat. They say they do, but they really don't. And they'll never buy all your fat. And then they really, these days, all days, everybody's concerned with, especially in the restaurant business. You're not going to work saying, you know what, I want to give my customers the best meal I possibly humanly can, and I'm going to give it to them for nothing. No, because they have to pay their help. They have to pay their dishwashers. They have to pay their rent. So they have to watch their price point. You got to get paid for what you do. And it's pretty hard to do it when you're competing with Gordon Foods and they're serving pink pigs that are raised in CAFOs and fed nothing but corn and soy. You can't compete with that. You can't. Not in price, right? Quality, yeah, but not in price. So what you want to do is you want to develop a database, all right? We used to call it a list. So you don't even need a computer. You just have a notebook and a pen. And if that one quits working, get another pen. That's what I used to like about file cabinets. I didn't really like computers when they first came out in the Air Force because all of a sudden, nothing worked. And before, when it was just file cabinets, I had a pen and then I had a backup pen. So anyway, nowadays you got to have a database, and you develop your database by the first pig that you butcher. You share with your friends, right? Yeah, you might take it in the shorts a little bit on the dollars, but it's a marketing thing. You're getting people introduced to this pig. And when you give it to them, maybe put some literature in with it, you know, what the Mangalitsa pig is and what all that. Don't expect people to lose their mind about the fat. Oh, this fat is so good. That takes time. It scared the daylights out of me. And people, you know, in America, we're taught that fat's bad. So if you're developing a new database, a new list of people, a lot of them, they're not gonna eat the fat. Somebody was saying to me the other day that they watched a video, and I had this guy here from Alaska that was buying pigs, and you know, we had pork chops for lunch. He was a GI, and he was Army, and so we had lunch and stuff. But he didn't eat his fat. Why is this thing doing that? It's scaring me. So it takes time. One of the biggest fibs that's out there, and it's also a marketing technique, is that if you get into Mangalitsa, it's a silver bullet. You're going to have people beating your door down to get those pigs. That's not necessarily true because people don't really know what it is. And a lot of us live in rural communities. People don't want to know what it is. You know, they have their minds made up about how they're going to do stuff, and they're not interested in trying some new pig. You know, so it's not the silver bullet. And I'm a little disappointed with some of the people that are out there that are marketing it that way, especially when they're selling breeding stock. They're saying, oh yeah, this is the silver bullet to, you know, your farming woes. It really isn't. I've had pigs here that I've been stuck with for a long time. And it's just kind of coming around, but it's not because that the world is waking up to Mangalitsa. No, that's not it. It's because we have marketed it for a long enough time now where we have repeat customers. And, you know, my customers are passionate about us staying in business because they get the Mangalitsa. They feel like having their friends over because it's so good. You know, it's a centerpiece that you can serve to your friends. It's so good. And then they get used to eating it. Once you get used to eating Mangalitsa, like if you have Mangalitsa bacon, it's an event. It's certainly an event. And maybe the first time you have it, you'll be like, I don't know. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But then the next time it's on the table, it's like, oh yeah. And then the next time, and then the next time. And then you'll go to have to stay at a hotel or something, and they'll have a continental breakfast. And it's like, there's a pan there of bacon, all you can eat, all you can stuff in your pockets, right? But then you take about four pieces of it, take it back to your table, and you eat one piece. And it's like, that was a disappointment. Because once you start eating Mangalitsa, there's no going back. There really is no going back to other pigs. I did a pig last year for a guy up in the UP. It was we traveled up there just to butcher a pig for this guy. And the next day, we killed it one day, let it hang. Next day, broke it down. And then I think it was the next day after that, they served it for some party. We didn't even eat any of it because we just didn't like the looks of it. And it was a good pig. It was a Berkshire. That's a good pig. But I just wasn't interested in it at all. I was more interested in the coleslaw that they had, and the potato salad. But this pig, no, I just wasn't interested in it at all. Not after eating Mangalitsa. So it does kind of spoil you. It does. But it's a program. It's not, okay, I have Mangalitsa pigs. Now I'm just going to buy commercial feed and I'm going to use the butcher. And as soon as I get these things butchered, people are going to flock to me, or I'll put a post on Facebook and people will flock to me. I haven't seen it happen like that for anybody. And it certainly didn't happen that way for us. It was more people would be at our house and we'd feed it to them. Oh, I got to have some of that. Oh, sure. We got a whole freezer full. And now we'll knock them off and we'll butcher them up and load the freezers, and people will call us and say, hey, have you got? Yeah, we do. And load it out that way. But they're all pretty close patrons of the farm. They're not just people walking in off the street. Of course, nobody would know enough to walk in off the street to say, have you got Mangalitsa, by the way? They wouldn't know. So, okay, let me read here. Got a lot of questions tonight.
You read my hand scratch?
Yeah. Okay. Farmer Andrew, what age do you castrate a pig? That's the second time I answered that today. We've done them from 2 weeks to 5 years old. So anywhere in there, but I would say the best time to do it is probably about 2 weeks. You can get your hands on them. They're not so big. And we have kind of a system how we've been doing it, how we do it. My kids catch them and then they bring them over one at a time and swing them between their legs. So they're standing there belly to belly with them. They swing them between their legs and then they sit down kind of on them, just secure them on a hay bale, on a square bale. And then I'm sitting on a bucket off the end of that square bale. And I have the what is it I squirt on them? Hydrogen peroxide. Clean them off a little bit. You can't clean them that good. It's not going to be like an operating room. You clean them. You just take your fingers and push their nuts towards you so that they're tight in the skin, and then you just make about about a 1/2 inch little cut on each one until you can squeeze them and they'll pop right out, and then you cut them off. And I just use a single edge razor blade, and then you squirt hydrogen peroxide right in the holes and then let them go, and they're fine. It doesn't phase them. They freak out about being restrained, but I don't think it's a real painful. Now we're going to get some PETA person on here that's going to say, yeah, let me do it to you. And I'll say, come on over. And I probably won't let you restrain me, though. Okay. Is that about it?
One more.
One more.
Actually, there's another one on here.
All right.
Have you crossed manga with other breeds? Pros or cons?
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Definitely. I've crossed them with large black, red wattle, Hereford. I didn't do that. A friend of mine did, but then I got some of them. So I'm living with the result of that. And there's a term, I kind of harp on, on the the university books, as far as they teach commercial farm, they teach industrial farming is what they do. I'm not saying that all animal science is bad, because a lot of it, I'm just busting their eggs, right? But there's a term known as hybrid vigor, right? So with Mangalitsa, it's a pertinent discussion, because as far as I know, I have heard that there are 5 different lines that were brought into the United States. And this would be like 10 years ago, something like that. And some of them were more recent, like within 5 years. I think the Reds were brought in like 5 years ago. But 3 that I know of. There's 3 lines that I know of. The other 2 that I just don't know. I have no knowledge of that. But okay, let's say that there's 5. That's pretty narrow. If we're breeding them now for 10 or 12 years in the United States, and we've only got 5 lines in here. So we can cross the blondes with the swallow bellies for sure. Some people think that that's a bad thing, but it's a good thing, because if you do that, you get what's called hybrid vigor. You get a hybrid between a swallow and a blonde. And, it mixes up the genetics a little bit. And the vigor that you get would be vigor pertaining to their breeding, their rate of growth, and then their tendency to thrive. All right. Their tendency to thrive. Right. So those 3 things, that's what you're looking for. I mean, if you want a good utility pig, you want good mothers too. You want them to be good, solid mothers. If you do not have hybrid vigor, after a while, you have failure to thrive. You have mothering problems. You have gestation problems. You get the picture. They start going downhill. So you have to bring in another line to cross in there, right? We don't have that option in the United States right now, because there's not all these multiple lines in the States. There's only a few. So the next best thing to do, and it might be even better than finding a new line, it might be even better, is cross in a different breed, right? Because in breeding, let's say you put in large black, you can pull it back out when you select your sows out of the next group, or the next group after that. If you want them to look like a Mangalitsa, then you pick ones that look like Mangalitsa. Get a picture of Mangalitsa. Oh, these look like Mangalitsa. I think I'll breed these ones. And then you breed them back to a Mangalitsa boar. And from that group, you draw some more out that look like Mangalitsa. And that's how you get back to a term that's being thrown around, pure, right? You hear that, and it's kind of a misleading use of the word pure. How could we determine whether or not a pig is a pure Mangalitsa? Is it because the way it looks? So if I had a panel of 5 people and I'd had the same pig standing out there, 3 of them might say, oh yeah, it's a pure. But 2 of them might say, well, I don't think so because the snout's a little bit short. And I've heard that times. The snout's a little short. Snout's a little long. You hear that. Oh, it has a spot on its shoulder. That can't be a pure one. People say things like that. That to me sound kind of foolish, really. But you hear that. But then one will look, like a Mangalitsa. It will have all the characteristics that somewhere along the line somebody determined these are characteristics that Mangalitsas have, and they'll say, well, that one's pure. And then they usually have like appointed people that are experts. They know a pure Mangalitsa when they see one, and then they'll say that they're pure, and these freaking people are actually drawing up documents saying that they're pure. And okay, I mean, it's a free country. You can do what you want, but I think that it gives the impression, right? It gives the impression to a lot of you guys that are new breeders in that if they're not pure, then they have no value. And I beg to differ on that because, like, I could take my pigs right now and I could go through a process with some of these outfits that do this and get a certificate that says it's pure, right? Or I could go you one better. I could just make up my own certificate, or I could have my wife make up a certificate, right? That says that I testified that it's pure, and the certificate would say it's pure. And, when people come want to buy a pig from me, I say, well, do you want papers with that? And say, well, yeah, I got to have the pedigree. I mean, I got to have the pedigree. Yeah, you got to have that, right? I said, sure. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. It's $250 extra. But you want the pedigree, don't you? Yeah, I want that. So, but then when let's say you bring that pig home and you slaughter that pig and you make it into all the cuts and you've paid, let's say, $200 for the pig, and you sell the pig for $500 once it's cut, you would have made, let's say, $250. You bought it for $250 and then you sold it for $500. You would have made $250 on it. But because you bought those papers, you still got them. You didn't make anything. But you still got those papers. You got those papers. You can't eat those papers. You can't spend those papers. But you paid $250 for them. Something like that. That's an example. So I've pondered that whole pedigree thing, and I don't see the value in it. But maybe I haven't seen everything there is to see in it. But I am seeing posts where people say, oh no, they have to have pedigrees. Okay, then we're not going to be able to help you. We're not specializing in any one thing. We sell animals that are breedable. That would make them breeding stock, and we sell them. And they cost more than animals that are not going to be bred, that are just going to be fed out, that are castrated, going to be fed out and slaughtered. And so they don't cost as much because you can't breed them. But I don't see, maybe I'm just not seeing that thing because there's a lot of people that are into it and maybe they see something I don't. But anyway, let me make sure there's nothing else. I'm almost 2 hours. Oh yeah, I'm 5 minutes off 2 hours. 8 minutes. After you've gutted chickens, how quickly do they need to be cooled? What method do you use? Conrad Homestead. I'll tell you how we do it. We get these totes from Home Depot. They call them brutes, and because they're tough, they can really take the abuse. And we fill them with water. And we have a wheel. There's a caster on the bottom of them, so we can position them in the inner shop. So we kill in the outer shop, or we kill outside. We scald and scrape, or we scald and pluck on the outer shop, and in the inner shop, it gets even cleaner in there because there's no guts and no manure in there. And then we cool them in there, and we just put them in cold water. And I've heard people say other things, but we've never tried those methods. People will actually gut them and put them on a rack. You know, I think maybe they do flush them out. They'll put them on a rack, and then they'll wheel them into a cooler, and they'll air cool them. And that's supposed to be better. I've never done it. So I don't know why it would be better, but if people say it's better, there must be a reason for it. But I'm pretty well satisfied with the way we're doing it. We've been doing it that way for a long time. And, you know, why don't you try it that way and let me know. If it's better, I'll try it. And once they're in that tote with just our well water, which comes out a little less than 50 degrees, we will take the chickens out, do a final look over them, and then maybe cut them up if the customer wants that, or just put them in a vac seal, or just put them in a bag. And then from there, they go in our cooler. It's a walk-in cooler. And the walk-in cooler will get them down to, you leave them in there long enough, it'll get them down to 38 degrees. But a lot of times, like on custom day, people are bringing the chickens the night before. We kill them in the morning, process them up, get them in bags, get them in the cooler. I think a lot of times they leave here, they're at least down to 40 degrees, most likely. But at the least, they're at 48 degrees, because that's the well water. I mean, we don't just dunk them in and take them out. Usually they're all in the water before we go to lunch. And when we come back from lunch, you know, sometimes we even have to change out the water, you know, to get them a little cooler. But that's how we do it. Well, I appreciate everybody coming by. We had a good crowd tonight. Thanks a lot for the thumbs up. We got more thumbs up than we got people's. And I'll be on tomorrow night, and I'll share these websites with you again. But I'm keeping my chin up. I think things are going to be great. I think America's just going through a near-death experience right now. But I believe all will be well. And, you know, I got my wife's computer here, and I don't even know how to shut it off. So, oh, yeah, there's a button there. It says end stream. All right, 10 o'clock. I'm going to call it good. Good night, everybody. Remember, anyone can farm.